Can somebody please tell me what the Steelers are doing? Because this is so weird. I mean, they've made a couple of good offseason moves. They signed Darius Slay to a 1-year deal to be their number one corner, and they brought in DK Metcalf from the Seahawks in a trade. The Steelers' hopes, or at least the Steelers fans' hopes, was that, okay, we brought in DK Metcalf, we have George Pickens, now is when we bring in Aaron Rodgers. And although that could still happen, it's not really looking positive, as Aaron Rodgers just doesn't seem motivated to play at all, whether it be this season or just again in general, because I feel like at this point, him and the Steelers would have gotten something done, and we are so close to approaching training camp that there's going to be a point when it's just too late. And now they're going in with a quarterback room so far of Mason Rudolph, who they brought back on a 2-year deal, Skylar Thompson, who they got from the Miami Dolphins, and Will Howard, who they drafted in the 5th round from Ohio State. And although I'm, high on Will Howard a little bit, I don't think that he would be the future of the team unless he comes out and absolutely just demolishes anything that Mason Rudolph and or Skylar Thompson will do. Like, I don't know how, but their quarterback room is probably one of the worst in the NFL. Because, I mean, at least last year, say what you want about it, but Russell Wilson was competent to a point. And when Justin Fields started in those 6 games, the teams went 4-2, and he played really well. So in my eyes, I was like, okay, they might let Wilson go, but I can see them giving Justin Fields some sort of extension. But Wilson's with the Giants now, and Justin Fields with the Jets. And the Steelers, I guess, brought Mason Rudolph back because he's familiar with the team, and just a couple years ago had a 3-game win streak at the end of the year to help them get to the playoffs, even though he played game manager. Like, this is why I say when the Ravens play the Steelers, I'm not scared of them anymore. Like, it seems like every time we've lost to the Steelers, even when Big Ben was around, like in 2020, 2021, and after that, seems like every time we've lost to the Steelers, it's always been a fluke, because they haven't put up 20 points in a game against us since, I believe it was like week 13 or something of 2021. So it's just been one of those things where they're not the same team that I remember, where they might be competitive, but they're not going to be a team where you're like, oh, okay, they might mount a comeback here. Like, at this point, they're still stuck in that old school mentality of run game and defense. It doesn't really matter who you have a quarterback, we're going to win. And nowadays, kind of does matter, because yes, there are teams that still have the run first mentality, like the Bills, like the Ravens, those teams. But at the same point in time, they got good quarterbacks who have won MVPs. They got good receivers who, can make plays. They got a good defense on there. Now the Steelers' best weapon at this point is Chris Boswell, their kicker, who went 41 of 44 in field goals last year and was the reason for many other wins. Heck, when they did beat the Ravens last year in Pittsburgh, he was responsible for all 18 points in that game, kicking 6 field goals. The Steelers, with some of these moves, I mean, the whole thing with George Pickens, I get it. He was on the last year of his deal. But what confuses me is you didn't get a receiver in the draft, right? Okay, you might have brought in Metcalf. That's great. That's cool. And I believe they signed Robert Woods to a 1-year deal where it's just kind of like, okay, yeah, that is what it is. And Calvin Austin's pretty decent. But then you also got they signed Scotty Miller and Ben Skoranek. Now, I know Skoranek's more of a return man, but the depth on your receiving core is very, very limited. And they did bring in a couple of undrafted rookie free agents who could definitely make the roster. But at the same point in time, how often does that happen? Because with that being a 55-man roster, you don't necessarily have room for all of the undrafted free agents. And at this point, I don't know. Because every time I feel like I say this is going to be the Steelers' worst year since their last losing season, which was in 2003 when they went 6-10, they always seem to come out on top somehow. Like last year, I think they overachieved in the first 13 games, and then the last 5 games of the year, we saw that when they lost all 5 of their games to end the year, and 4 of those 5, they lost by double digits. And the year before, when they were 7-7, I kind of thought they weren't going to make the playoffs. I didn't think Mason Rudolph was going to help, but they got in. And even in Kenny Pickett's rookie year in 2022, they didn't make the playoffs, but at one point in time, they were, I think, 5-8 or whatever, and they ended up finishing the year 9-8 with a winning record. It's just, for whatever reason, the Steelers have this mentality that we need to keep Tomlin's winning record streak alive, and that's really really all that's on their mind. Like, at this point, it doesn't feel like they're like, let's go out there and win a Super Bowl. I mean, TJ Watt's been on this team for almost 10 years, and he hasn't experienced one playoff win. Not one, because they haven't won a playoff game since the divisional round in 2016 when they took on the pre-Patrick Mahomes Kansas City Chiefs. And ironically, in that game, they also won 18-16, where Chris Boswell kicked all 6 field goals for them. So in the end, the Steelers are just... I don't really know what to say that they're doing. Like, the draft and all was decent. I mean, Derek Carman was a good pick in the first round, and they definitely, getting Caleb Johnson, that's something they needed, considering they also did lose Najee Harris. Let's not forget about that, a multi-time 1,000-yard rusher. But at the same point in time, some of these good moves that they made, they might just end up being null and void because a lot of the roster, including at the quarterback position, it just doesn't make sense. And now with the receivers, oh yeah, you still got decent receivers, but if you knew you were going to trade George Pickens or there was a possibility, why didn't you go out in the draft and get somebody? And I know, too, there's this whole thing, Gabe Davis just got released by the Jags, so maybe the Steelers pulled the trigger on that. But at the same point in time, who knows how good Gabe Davis would be, considering I think last year he had some drop issues. So, and this is coming, like I said, from a Ravens fan. The Steelers are not having a good offseason. They've made a couple of good moves, but the expectation of what was supposed to be is just not there, and I don't think at this point they're going to get Aaron Rodgers. I don't think they're going to make some big trade for Kirk Cousins. And even if they do both of those things, they're not going to be Super Bowl contenders. They might be playoff contenders, but that's really about it. It's going to be hard for them to win the AFC North because at least the Ravens and Bengals in that division have 2 competent quarterbacks. I guess the thing you can say for the Steelers over the Bengals is that the Steelers' defense is better, but so long as Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins are on that team together, the Bengals are going to be competitive every year because they'll be able to score, and the Ravens have Lamar Jackson, a good defense, and they have Derrick Henry running the ball, so you're going to need to score points to keep up with them, and with the team that you have, with the quarterbacks that you have, it's just not going to be possible. You probably would have just been better off bringing both Wilson and Fields back and just seeing if that would do anything, or at least bringing Fields back, in my opinion, would have been the better choice because he's younger and you saw that he played well for you, and yet you dumped them both just to bring back Mason Rudolph for whatever reason. But that's it for me. If you're a Steeler fan, I'd really like to hear in the comments below what you think of this offseason so far. Again, I say it's bad, but at the same point in time, it's not like the Steelers haven't made good moves. And even their draft, they did make good picks, but there was also a lot that just didn't make sense to me. And it makes me go, you know, the time of the Steelers being a feared team is just over. They have a simplistic way of playing, and a lot of teams are able to figure it out. And although they can find ways to BS their way into winning or keeping the game close, they're just not the same Super Bowl contending team that I am used to seeing. So that's it for me. Stay safe out there, and until then, I will catch you all in the next one.